How you doing? My name is George, and you're watching the Northeast RC Racer podcast. And I'm here with my co-host, Toby Hampson,
Howdy.
Tom Petrella,
Gentlemen,
and our boy Vin Manchenda.
How you guys doing?
What's up, boys? Another good time. January. Freezing in my garage. 6 months ago, the garage door was open. Sunlight was coming in. I was in a t-shirt. Now we got a little fire pit going, but I think you guys are either in your dens or your basements or your workshops. So everybody's got another layer on, but things are heating up for Motorama.
Yep.
I don't know, 51 degrees. I was ready to go start work on the outdoor track today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was about 40, 45 here, but the wind was pretty savage. So I kind of took the fun out of it.
Vinny, what's up with you?
So, yeah, I've been chaperoning ski club every Friday, which has been exciting. So, teaching myself how to ski, which is always difficult at 48 years old. But, yeah, that's been a lot of fun. I got myself down to, where is it? Yeah, Rhythm RC. Thanks for the shirt,
Nice.
Tom. So I got to check out Tom's track, mix it up with those guys there. And I got to say, Tom, you have a great crew. You have a great crew over there. It was a lot of fun, and I will definitely be back there. And it's the track was technical. Like you had to be on point. You had to pitch the car just right over a couple of the obstacles. So it took some skill, some getting used to. It was challenging yet rewarding and fun. So I had a good time there. I also actually yesterday got myself down to First State, which is a new indoor carpet track in Delaware. So I got to check that place out, and I closed it out. I was there most of the day. Shout out to my buddy Gary Terry. Gary was like, "Oh, I'm going to go down there and practice, and should I do this?" He's asking me all these questions. So I'm like, you know what, Gary? I'm not sure, but let's go answer those questions together. And that's what we did. And I got some experience running on black CRC carpet, and definitely a different setup than Trains and Lanes or Rhythm, where it's office carpet and a different level of grip, different tires. So, I didn't want to change my car too much because it's really good at Trains and at Rhythm. But at the same time, it's fun to get a new track under the belt. So I'm going to be going back down there again, and I'm going to put my setup sheets on SoDialed. So if you're running a B74-2 or a B7, you'll be able to have the most latest setup sheet that I put together. Not to say that it's going to be the fastest. You can definitely still talk to your fast guys at the races down there, but it'll get you started for sure. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Looking forward
Sweet.
to Motorama.
Sweet, Vin. Good to hear. You got some wheel time. Did you go with Aiden, or did you just go by yourself?
No, boys are in school, man. I'm proud of them. They're kicking butt. I wish I took them with me, but yeah, they're doing the school thing right now.
Cool, man.
So,
Good priorities.
yep.
Toby, how you feeling? I know you've been under the weather since you went to the motherland, and then still sick when you came back. How you doing these days?
Better unmute myself. It's doing all right. Went to the UK on January 11th. Actually, on the 12th, I actually went racing, which was pretty cool. I wrote a little blog post about it a few years back, but there's a cool club actually in the town, about 10, 15 minutes from my house, which was never there when I grew up. But now it's got a really strong carpet following. There's a badminton gym that they roll in there on a Sunday afternoon, start racing at 4 p.m. They roll the track out in like 45 minutes. Awesome, huge track. We ran three qualifiers and double mains for everybody, and just two-wheel drive buggy. None of this stock bullshit, whatever. It's just two-wheel drive. And I actually beat up on them all with my stock car, which is a lot of fun. So in the infield, the car was like lightning fast. But as soon as we turned around and went down the straightaway, it was just like meow. Everyone just would get me on the straight. But I did pretty good, pretty happy.
Look at you becoming the carpet savant.
I know. I looked like I actually knew what I was doing. It was nuts. They gave me tires. Actually, when I got there, The guy Ben who runs it. I asked him before. I'm like, "What tires do you need?" He's like, "Don't worry, I got it for you." I'm like, "All right." When I got there, I had like a brand new B7 something for me, a brand new controller, tires, everything. I'm like, "Whoa, easy," with a fucking 4.5 motor in it or something like that. So I put this thing on the straightaway and it's fucking gone. I'm like trying to slow it.
Put yourself on mute.
Fuck. How long have I been on mute?
No, just now.
Just a second.
You know, I think maybe George tried to bleep out your F-bomb and you said it was going down the street.
Fuck. So anyway, it was as scary as hell driving that car. So I said, let me just go back to the stock car. I'm fine with it. And to be honest, I felt it drove better. So without the Mugen. So there was another Mugen guy there drooling all over it, which was cool. Got to geek out a little bit. So that was a lot of fun. Probably the highlight of the weekend because then by Wednesday I got flu and then it all went downhill from there. But that was a lot of fun. So now I'm just
you could drive that much carpet. George has to try nitro.
I know, right?
I mean, it seems to only you never know what you might like as much as you resist. See?
Yeah, I never knew how much I liked it. I just wish I had more time to do it. But you know, I'm going down. Like I said,
car's clean when it comes off the track.
Yeah, I know. Well, I ran up critters for like forever. You know, burning up primes. You know, Proline primes in a couple of weeks, gluing new ones, grinding them down, sourcing the shit out of them, wiping all the dirt off them. Well, you've got the week, you know, and here I am, you know, got my set of tires, I go it out, boom, go home. It's great. And it's just like on road, you know what I mean?
What's a tire prep for that CRC carpet?
Put them in tires and go. I imagine just glue them and go, right?
Sometimes we have to glue a sidewall depending on what your how the traction is. But for the most part, there's not a whole lot you have to do. There's you don't depend like stadium truck. I run I put closed cell foams in the front tires. So sometimes it's different foams too, but
I don't know if you can see. You glue the outside edge to the front usually, you know, and that's usually all the prep you need. You're not saucing tires or anything like that.
Love it.
Similar to like Brian's, Tom. The race in there, everybody's got to glue that outside tire. Tom, getting back to the comment about Toby Curson, I would never mute him out, man, because that word in general is fantastic, right? It's like,
I mean,
you can use it adjective, noun, pronoun, verb, all that stuff, but there's nothing better than hearing cursing, especially when it has a foreign accent.
Exactly,
So,
you know.
Exactly.
That's just part of being British, you know. Every other word's fuck, or the other word, which I don't want to offend you Americans with.
That's it. Somebody said we got to keep it more clean around here, but we're
friendly. Come on.
Some other podcast, that's for sure. As we continue, real quick, because we got a whole bunch of stuff to get to, and we already have our guest waiting in the wings. Thank you to our sponsors, which is EB Mods and Nitro Caddy. So thank you guys for sponsoring the podcast. A couple weeks ago, we had a very good friend of ours pass away. Great guy in the hobbies from New York area. He's a stable at Barnstormers. His name was Justin Drinks. And I just want to, again, take not a moment of silence, but just a second to mention his name, show a great picture of him. A lot of guys knew him. And one of the things I was fortunate enough to go with Alan to his wake. And all I can tell you guys is this. I've been to a lot of wakes in my life so far. I'm 54. I've seen plenty of relatives, a couple of friends. None of them are good, right? But you go there to be supportive. But it was the first time I had ever been to a wake where this much RC stuff was broadcasted on the brochure. Normally it's family, relatives, great times, vacations. But Justin's was all about RC racing. So that's why I wanted to take a moment and even highlight his name once again. Not to be forgotten. I'm Greek. What we like to say is may his memory be eternal. Justin Drinks. Love you, pal. Race good for the rest of your life, buddy. That's all I can say. And support to his family and his dad, Dana, and his mom, Marjorie, I think, and support to Rohan Grant. Rohan was there, and he was very emotional. Justin was a good friend of his, I believe, a best man at his wedding. And supportive of him at the track lots of times. It was a pretty emotional day. That being said, we're going to take it to Toby, because Toby is going to do some primary sponsor ads in a few seconds when he can find the button.
Yeah, I mean, because talk about it didn't come out very well. Talk about Ed EB Mods. I don't have his page up right now. It's I guess this is second year of sponsoring us.
Yes, sir. Second year.
Yeah, ebmods.com. Ed's actually just bought his own engine out finally. And he's been working feverishly on that. The Finn, what's it called? The OP1, OP2, something like that. There you go. Look at you.
Invictus, Optimus, something like that.
Yeah. Obviously we're well knowledgeable here. It's I believe it's Nova based, but it has a special spin on it. I believe it's got different black plate on it, different modified the sleeve. So as you know, probably Ed does a ton of engine tuning. So you're gonna get something special out of him. He also does engine services. You have full engine service. You can send it off to him end of the season or begin the season. They'll go through the engine, replace any bits that need replacing. It will pinch your cylinder if you need that done. So that's EB Mods, the guy you want to go to in the Northeast to get for your engine needs.
He's helped me out before, man. I mean, lightning quick turnaround and everything he does. Comes back. I mean, the motor looked like amazingly clean. Everything was perfect. If there's anybody buying new nitro motors, got a new nitro motor for Christmas or something, send them out to Ed. He'll oil bath break it in for you. He'll dyno tune it. He'll heat cycle it. He'll have it ready where you come back, you put it in your car, and you can race.
That's right.
It's pretty awesome.
Especially
when George can be a new nitro racer. Make your life real easy, George.
Tom, getting back to that before, when I show up and there's a pre-built nitro car for me and a set of tires and a controller, like Toby said, I'm in, brother.
You're no Toby. Let's not get crazy. You're no Toby Hampson.
That sounds like a GoFundMe if ever there was one.
It's all right. I like my electric beauty. And electric Truggy, as an example, is coming on strong. I heard some tracks it could be the second biggest class next to nitro. But anyway, thank you to our sponsors. That was great, Toby. And
I'm going to just take a second to talk about Nitro Caddy, right?
In a few minutes.
Okay.
In a few momentitos.
You got it, boss. Oh. Program.
Yeah, we got a script, people. Not of what to say, but
I can help as I go along, clearly.
George has a script. We're just kind of going along for the ride.
Yeah.
Getting back to EB Mods, probably the most important thing that was missed in saying is that most of the fast guys in the Northeast, like Vin Manchen's son and Vin, they run that motor, and most of the other guys, Tom does as well, and a lot of other fast names that are out there. So most definitely check them out. Not just for break-in, all the fast guys are using his equipment.
And listen, even if, sorry, George, if you're not sure where your nitro motor left off last year, does it need a pinch? Does it not need a pinch? Send it into Ed and have him retune it and check the compression on it and see if it needed a little bit of a pinch, or hey, it was good to go, and I just made sure everything was good, and here you go. So Ed's really good about being efficient like that. So he's a guy you can trust. Definitely go check him out.
And if you're lazy and you don't want to do any motor maintenance, send your motor to Ed and he'll get it all ready for you for the next season. So you can do that too. Last month, I would like to say thank you to our previous guests. We are on episode 26 right now. Last month was 25, and that was featuring Prisco, aka P-Word, and Dennis Brew. So thank you guys very much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciated your interviews, your stories. And Dennis Brew brought us an additional gift, which Toby's going to get to in a second. But thank you again, guys. Until we can get the promo up in a second.
Absolutely.
Just Toby, tea with honey. Tea with honey right now.
Believe me, I've tried everything.
All right.
So yeah, just going to cut over this quick video from Nitro Caddy. Boom.
Good music, Toby.
It's free.
Free and good. Two things we like. All right, so thank you once again to Dennis Brew from Nitro Caddy. Dennis is our second sponsor of the podcast. We really appreciate it. Helps us pay for the software, microphones, stuff like that. Trying to work on maybe some new backdrops, or maybe even see if Dennis can work on making us some signs for the podcast with neon, or just getting general equipment like other microphones or headsets for the other guys. With that being said, something I was going to mention at the end, but as a result of the sponsorship, I'll be at Motorama that we'll get to later. Along with Toby. Toby's doing his thing, of course. But while I'm there, I'm going to grab some driver interviews with the proceeds that we've got some microphones from. So, again, thank you so much. We have a great guest tonight. We're going to bring him in a second. Lots of you guys know him, I'm sure. His name is Alan Placer. Not only is he a hobby enthusiast, but he's also one of my best friends. I'd like to bring him in. There we go. What's up, Alan?
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
How you doing, Alan?
When the hell we get down south? How y'all doing?
It's like we're back
Northeast
in
RC Racer podcast, not the
yeah.
Southwest RC Racer podcast.
The last race I was at was in Fallboro down in North Carolina, so I guess it's stuck.
Well,
I'm thinking warm weather too, so it's all right. That's a good excuse.
Alan, thanks for coming to the podcast. It's been a while. Wanted to get you here. And, like I said before, you and I have been friends for quite a long time. When I actually got back into the hobby, Alan's family had a big hobby store at the time, only a few miles from my house. So that's where I ended up meeting Alan and his family earlier on, when I was about 13, actually. And then basically big hiatus from 13 almost till about 30, I was at RC. And then when I got back into it, went back to the store. It was a local place I wanted to get familiar with. And that's kind of how Alan and I became friends at that point. We knew each other from younger, and we've been racing since. But I wanted to bring Alan on the show because Alan has a lot of experience in the hobby business, growing up, seeing the retail aspect of the hobby, being a racer. His family operated not only business, but promoted races for the local community, right? Kids would come in, buy all the hottest, latest Tamiya cars and vehicles. His family would have races and stuff, and we're going to get into that conversation. So, Alan, give us a little background on how your family got into a hobby shop and some of your basic experiences in the beginning. You want a little background on Hobby Masters?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me, first of all, and good to see all you guys again. So Hobby Masters was my family's business. My dad actually started it as a side hustle hobby. He was into model trains, and he owned some gas stations, so he started a little train store. But being a good businessman, he listened to his customers and wound up carrying plastic models, model rockets, and then, eventually radio control started becoming a thing. In 74, I got my little elf back there, if you can see it. That was like state-of-the-art RC car back then. They were just starting to come out with off-road cars, early generation. George's got a Super Champ floating around there someplace. Even that was after 74. So RC was a very basic thing. And my family started holding races in the town. They started off at an ice skating rink that let them run indoor races. And that was a blast until people discovered traction compound and put that on the tires. And then the next day people went to go skating and went head over heels. So my family was invited not to race there anymore. And so we did a YMCA gym floor with the rule of no more traction compound. And then plus we had special regional, or I guess regional, we call it, races, where we did with local newspapers and at their parking lots, big events, couple hundred drivers. It would be all day events. And there we go. That's my uncle and my mom. These are in days when, lap counting systems were just starting to come out. The bigger national tracks had them, but for all the local racers, we didn't have that. So what you're seeing there is my mom tracking the drivers who are just across from there, while my uncle is watching them. the employees were the marshals back then, and after your race, instead of marshaling, you would kneel down next to one of the other drivers and clap by holding fingers up. There you go. Great style in there. So you would hold fingers up to count laps. We couldn't have a race more than 10 laps back in those days. And my mom and uncle would be watching to make sure that they were honest in their lap counting and, check the races. And that was early RC racing for most people. We were running Tamiya cars for the most part, stock and modified class. And then we would get into these open classes where, the RC10 was just coming around, the gold pan. But a lot of us were just building our own cars, fiberglass chassis and Super Champ front suspension with RC10 gearboxes in the rear. It was a very innovative day in RC racing back then. If you weren't, again, Family Hobbies was, up and running back then, but different world for the guys that weren't pro. It was a lot of fun. George raced then. I was racing a Frog and then a Super Champ. Yes, a lot of fun. I mean, people would just line up and wait for their chance to run, and a lot of father-son time. It was much more family oriented and lower budget than what today's racing is. So we had an absolute blast doing it. Yeah, I can't even tell what kind of cars those are. I mean, everything's scratch built back then.
I want to know, hold on real quick. Were those Tamiya socks?
Those could have been Tamiya socks. Who knows? Because we're in New Jersey, my folks got to know that store was a 10,000 square foot store. That's my old pit box. So, we had to homemade our boxes. But Tamiya at that time was imported into New Jersey in Edison to MRC. So we got to know MRC very well. And then we got to actually know Mr. Tamiya. He visited our store. It was so much more personal back then. I guess it's still personal today. Just it was smaller. There wasn't as many aftermarket companies there. I probably have them all listed on that on the inside lid of my box there. Bolink, CRP, Parma. It was a smaller crew back then.
Novak
and Tekin were just starting up. Man, you think we blew up speed controllers nowadays? Speed controllers, they ignited all the time back then. Those companies were just starting to figure out the electronics, and as they were figuring it out, we kept on making things more powerful. What do you got, Tom? Can't see what you got.
This is the old green resistor for an RC10.
Yep, the wiper arm, mechanical speed controllers that we used. Yeah, so totally different world of racing. Antennas and limited range radio impounds. A lot of people never experienced a radio impound. You couldn't have your radio in the pits because if you left it on by accident, then there was only about 13 or 15 frequencies that we ran on. So you could mess up somebody else's race and wind up with a runaway car. So you had to get your radio before each race and turn it back in. And then when transponders came out, nobody had personal transponders. Some of you guys have seen the house transponders that, you put a body clip through it on your body. That was the standard back then. You turned them in after each race and picked them back up after each race. So that's the earliest days of racing. And then we got into America's Hobbies. I got one of their old hats in Englishtown, New Jersey. That was a national level track. We used to race with the guys from Trinity there. We had formed a race team through Hobby Masters that we got a lot of really fast guys. I think George has got one of our team jackets in the background there.
It's not my team jacket, although back in the 80s, I probably would have rocked it. But that's some memorabilia that Alan had that ended up getting sold from his store inadvertently, and then Alan ended up purchasing them back, and I picked it up for him recently from a guy locally who collects memorabilia from our local area. So
so we started traveling, racing more. then I got a mega track. I don't know if any of you guys remember Track 70. Back then, when it first opened, it was called Mega Track, and what that made them amazing, it wasn't a dirt off-road track then. They put in a paved bank tri-oval that was a copy of Talladega. And at that point, we had been dirt oval racing, and some paved tracks were just starting. Englishtown had started one. So this tri-oval was awesome to have bank turns and just be able to go so much faster. I mean, we were probably hitting maybe 35 miles an hour. It was like lightning fast to us then, for 4 minutes, because we're still running NiCad and nickel metal hydride batteries. And I know, Toby, you raced back then. I don't know where, Tom, you were at then. But racing was a lot different then. Still just as competitive, maybe even more competitive. I've just loved seeing how it's grown up. And then Nitro came along, OFNA, Kyosho, Mugen started in, Associated got into it, and Nitro changed the game immensely. We watch Electric making a comeback now, but it's not the same comeback compared to when Nitro first came in, because Nitro was so much faster than brushed motors and nickel metal hydride batteries. It blew it away. It killed Electric almost overnight, but it took a whole different a whole different skill set to keep a Nitro motor running, especially back then, and a different track to run on. So
Alan,
yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but that's a couple questions kind of that you're already answering, so I don't want you to go too far. You told me a story. So on the tri-oval over Track 70, for those of you that aren't really familiar with it, whoever's typing, hit mute on your thing, just so I can hear you typing. At the tri-oval, it was pretty wild. Like Alan said, it had bank turns, but the bank turns were probably like 5 or 6 feet high if you were standing in the middle of it. So Alan told me a story a long time ago, but I remember because I thought it was funny. Alan, you told me that you used to adjust your gearing, right? So you'd start the race and everybody would take off and your car would be creeping. But by the time, like the second to the last lap, you want to tell that story?
Yeah. So in the stock class there, it was basically Associated, gold chassis cars that we converted to on-road. And the stock class there is, sealed motors and limit on batteries. So everybody would put the fastest gear ratio you could on. And at that time, a 19-tooth pinion gear was the largest pinion gear that any RC manufacturer made. So I just got the idea, well, why limit myself to RC manufacturers? And I found a company that had a 23-tooth pinion gear, which was so significantly different in an RC10 gearbox that I easily would qualify first, but then I'd have to start in the back of the pack for the races because it would take me 2 laps to get up to speed. So I would just let everybody go, get up to speed, and then after 2 laps, drive around the traffic like nothing to it. I mean, as long as I didn't hit anybody, it was an easy win. I held the track record there. I went through tech so many times with people claiming I was cheating. There was nothing against the rules on the pinion gear, and nobody ever looked at the pinion gear. They always looked at the motor and the batteries. So, but that was the days of innovation where you had to find new stuff. Nowadays they make pinion gears as big as you can fit in a car. But that's what helped bring it around. It was fun stuff.
It's like a Bonneville salt flat car.
Yeah, it really was.
2 miles to warm up, and when it was going, watch out.
Yeah, it was funny watching it get up to speed.
And those things aren't evil. I mean, easy to drive. I've tried to drive some banked ovals. That's already hard enough. But this one was a tri-oval, so you had like 3 points. And it's real hard to keep that car in the center of the lane going around 3 different points. But cool stuff. So, Alan, you were getting into the product progression of RCs. So, how much was a game changer? Because you witnessed it, probably more than anybody on this panel or other people that we've had on it. So what was it like when the Nitro explosion happened relative to nickel cadmium, right? That it was NiCad back then. Nickel metal probably wasn't even out yet.
It went from NiCad to nickel metal hydride, right? Yeah, I got the right order there, which just basically got us more runtime when we went to nickel metal hydride. But I mean, it's literally double the speed difference with nitro. I don't remember if we pit stopped originally then, or if somebody thought about that later on. But certainly, even out of a regular fuel tank, everybody was getting more than 4 minutes. The problem was none of the tracks were built for, like, our folks stopped racing because the parking lot races wasn't really the place for an OFNA, 4-wheel drive off-road car. So the entire scene changed within a year or two, at least in this part of New Jersey. Really, for us, it went all back to backyard bashing. You would have to really travel a bunch to get nitro racing. South Jersey, America Hobbies, America Hobbies and Englishtown, they kept going. But even their track, by the end, Family Hobbies, that track was so small for nitro and brushless or electric. But he kept it going. He knew how to build a good track for all of us. The hobby industry changed. And that's also when we started to see the big split from backyard basher to dedicated pro racer. A gold chassis RC10, you can backyard bash, and OFNA original 4-wheel drive buggy, sure, you could bash them. But then when guys really wanted to start getting competitive, the cars started becoming more race specific. For the on-road tracks that were around now, the RC10L and 12L and, other on-road cars were becoming way more prevalent that, again, you just wouldn't backyard bash any of them. So big shift in the hobby, and that's when you started to see the hobby stores going to more dedicated RC stores for racing versus what we called full-line hobby stores, like my parents that carried everything in the hobby. It made a big split, and the industry was really splitting too because of the way you purchased RC. When my folks started, there was Tower Hobbies catalog online. You could, or no online. You could go to the catalog and buy stuff, or you could go to your local hobby store. Now, we always thought Tower Hobbies was annoying because their pricing was cutthroat, and Tower Hobbies was Great Plains, which was one of the major distributors we had to buy from. So we were competing against them. And then as the hobby industry grew, eventually Horizon Hobby came along, and they did no different. They started selling to the customers just like Tower Hobbies was doing. In any other industry, especially when Horizon started buying up all these companies, this would fall, into antitrust laws. But in our industry, nobody's big enough to take them to court ever. And then, most people don't know this, but Great Plains and Horizon were actually right up the street from each other in Champaign, Illinois. And eventually Horizon bought out Great Plains, and it's kind of put us in the state of affairs that we're in today with the hobby. And, we're seeing it come full circle with Team Losi Racing right now. And, in the corporate world, racing is 1%, if that, of the industry. So it's not profitable. So it's very important for the racers to support local hobby stores, track stores. Trains and Lanes has a fabulous store. LCRC has a fabulous store. We have to support them, or we will actually eventually run ourselves out of our own hobby by not having a place to buy from anymore. Because Horizon is going to kill themselves. We see it coming. Anybody that's been in the hobby industry this long sees that it's a writing on the wall thing for them, unfortunately. We wish them the best. We want them to survive, but they're following corporate policy and not, listening to the hobbyists so well. So I'll get off my
sort of following the Traxxas model, right? They're trying to they want to own it from soup to nuts. Alan, what's your take? One thing I do see, I think that's a slightly bright spot is they've kind of gone, like you look at A-Main Hobbies and Tower, they now have minimum advertised price, which now most local hobby shops can compete. Couple that with, used to be if you ordered online, you didn't have to pay the tax. And if you spent a few $100, hey, that added up as well. But now with, minimum advertised pricing, there's not accepting coupons, and everybody's got to pretty much pay tax no matter where you order from anymore. You think that's going to help the hobby over time? You think that helps the local shops? I mean, granted, we all have to change our habits too. I mean, we're in a world of used to, I can go on my phone, order anything from Amazon, and chances are I can probably get it overnight rather than driving somewhere. But be curious your take on that.
The biggest problem is where they set that minimum advertised price to. In the beginning, it was 50% margin was the minimum advertised price, and that was okay. And very quickly, that got down to 30%, 20%. A hobby store needs a 10 or 20% margin to turn the lights on between insurance and rent and employee costs and all. Versus some warehouse in the middle of nowhere that has much lower cost to it. So they have to set those map prices higher than what they've been doing. And then, that absolutely gives the hobby store a chance to survive. And hey, why not, if you really value the hobby store, allow the hobby stores to have a slightly lower price than the internet, because that helps compete with the convenience factor of online shopping. There's lots of other solutions out there. But they seem to be more profit driven than, and then, when people need support, that's where these companies start to suffer. Is you buy a car online, and where are you going to take it for support? And then these online companies, they get people very upset with them that they can't get their car fixed, can't get help with it.
Well, then they bring it to the local shop and they yell at the local shop for not wanting to help them or diving into it, right? You got to have. If you're gonna buy it from them, you can ask them for the support, but it's kind of awkward to buy it online to save $10 and then expect them to spend a few hours with you trying to solve it if there's a problem.
Yeah, which is we constantly used to see that. They buy it online. They're like, well, I'll be a good customer of yours if you can fix it. Well, no. First pay to fix it, and then start shopping with me, and we can talk about free later on. But, people, will try to get something for nothing, and the industry kind of allows it and encourages it.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, Toby's been racing as long as I have. You went through a lot of that.
Yeah, I actually, without blowing smoke out of my butt, decided to get rid of all my sponsors because I just think it's a slippery slope. So now I'm just going to buy everything from where Brian or LCRC, just think it's the right thing to do now. One thing I saw, actually, a buddy of mine sent it to me, and it's sort of relevant. A track, Bakersfield RC Raceway. I don't know where that is. Anyway, they made this really cool post about sponsorship, and basically, if you're a sponsored driver and you want to race, you pay $5 more than the other guys, which I think is really cool. It's something, right? So, because, I spent all my time racing at Critters. People get all their tires online. Al would have rows of tires for, because everyone else bought their tires. They were sponsored, or a buddy of theirs was sponsored, and he'd get him tires. So, hey, you should cough up. Pay $5. What's it to you? All right.
Yeah. As much as I'm a sponsored driver today, I would have no issue if that was done away with. To me, I run the sponsors because to me that's part of the challenge of being a good enough driver to become sponsored. The sponsors I have, Techno, very hard team to get on.
Yep.
I'm probably the slowest guy they have in the region, but so I like the challenge of it for that. And also, there's not a local hobby store here for, I don't know, George, what do we got to drive? An hour?
Yeah, 45 minutes down the Forked River to Brian's, Jersey RC Racing Permit.
Yeah, and he doesn't even carry A-scale RC stuff. So, I mean, it would be a trek to go somewhere, LCRC. I purchase stuff all the time that my sponsors don't have and pick it up at the track or Trains and Lanes if I'm going out to that track. So it is nice when they have them, but I can understand for a track owner the struggle in carrying inventory. Nobody's going to buy unless they're having an emergency.
Yeah, the funny thing I read all the time is people are like, "Oh, I couldn't go racing without my sponsorship." They're in the wrong fucking hobby. Like it's expensive. And then you see guys who are sponsored, and then they get this massive box of like every single J Concepts tire you can imagine in every single compound, which they're never going to use. $2,000 worth of tires. It's just going to sit there. So that's one great thing about not being sponsored. Is like I have to think about every set of tires I want to buy because they're expensive for one thing, but I don't mind paying $50 for a set of tires. But look at my shelf, there's everything I need and nothing else, So, yeah.
So before you were going to say something, Vinny?
Yeah, I was going to say guilty as charged. I love being sponsored by J Concepts. And, I'm looking at boxes of tires. I've pretty much every tire, every compound, it's there, it's ready to go. But I don't go and sell products to friends even, or do any of that kind of thing. I will give away, practice tires. I've been doing that a lot lately, and paying it forward by, just giving it to people that need the help. They might have a circumstance or something going on, and that's how I try, at least with the tires and J Concepts and all that. And what I really like about sponsorship is the ability to work together as a team on something. So, for example, J Concepts, when we go to a big race, there's a lot of times there's a group chat, and everybody, all right, we're going out on green reflexes right now, or we switched it up, we're on blue relapses now. All right, for the main, we're going to do this though. And that's really helpful. And then same thing with Team Associated. Like, we're doing monthly meetings. We're about to have our first monthly meeting. I'm really excited about that, and the opportunity of everybody to come together and work together on like Alan was saying before. There's a lot of there used to be a lot of innovation that you'd come up with on your own, like the pinion gear, for example. So, if you work together as a team, you're going to get those kind of advantages by saying, hey, what are you using? What are you doing? Well, this really worked for me at this track, and that really worked at that track. So, there's both sides to everything. But I definitely hear where you guys are saying too. And I do feel like that, yeah, when you're a sponsored driver, you owe it to go to that hobby shop and pay it forward in knowledge, and tell the customers that, hey, this is what I'm using. And, go ahead and try this, or go buy that part and try that and buy it right here at the hobby shop. And so there's different ways of giving back as well. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's important, Vin. You get to see a lot of people that are sponsored, and their sole contribution to their sponsorship is, oh, here's my support package from J Concepts or whoever, right? And I take a picture of a giant box. Ooh, wow, that's exciting. How about doing like a post on, this is the tire that I ran. This is how it felt. If I was at LCRC, for instance, and the weather was this is the tire I would run, and like actually promote a product. That's kind of what you're supposed to be doing. So I think a lot of people don't have that, don't do that, have no visibility of that. So, and Vin's good at that, and that's one advantage.
Well, I think that's where they have to delineate themselves, right? You should be a brand ambassador, so to speak, right? If you're going to be sponsored at that point, at least someone that, look, let's be honest, at all of our levels, unless you're getting a paycheck, right? The value you're bringing is going to be primarily helping people at the track, showing how that product can maybe help their performance overall, or have them help with a product they already have, making it work the way it should be working. I think we do that for the most part, but there's certainly some impacts to the hobby shops, and maybe it probably is a little too widely offered, but you can't fight City Hall either. It's a tough spot.
Yep. Yeah. I don't think we're gonna go back. As much
we
as
talk about this all night, and never come up with a solution.
Yeah. I mean, it's like every other podcast, right? So let's go back to Alan.
So Alan, you started getting into it before Nitro comes into the scene, right? The hobby starts shifting. Since I was in the store a lot, I saw a progression too, right? In order for you guys to survive, part of this podcast is not only your experience, your background, and some of your current business that you're involved with, but it was also about the current state of what it's like to own a hobby business, your pre-knowledge involvement, and then Brian's going to come in and comment in a little bit. He's our other guest waiting in the wings. But one of the things I noticed going into the store and seeing how business progressed was you guys started to do online, right? So whether that was selling cars or selling other products, right? Because you mentioned before full service hobby shop. So you guys sold model planes, remote controlled boats, remote controlled airplanes, model kits, chessboards, entry bow and arrow kits. I mean, you name it. So I saw that in order to keep the business alive, right, the internet was coming in. You guys fully started getting involved in the hobby online business as well, right?
Yeah, there's really, I think, two ways for a hobby store to survive nowadays. One is to have experiences. Gaming nights, the Pokemon Magic Gathering is all huge, model building events and different things that you can do that the internet can't provide. And then have a big internet presence. LCRC does a fabulous job with their internet presence. I would imagine, other than a race weekend, do more business online than they do in the store because they've built such a good website. So I focused a lot on building our store's website. We actually had one of the original websites. Like when the internet first came around, it was an image of our business card. That was it. And then PayPal came out, and when PayPal came out, we could start selling products. We actually started with paint by numbers for whatever reason was the first thing that stuck. And we sold paint by numbers online, and it kept going and growing. And, I kept trying to build the website for the store. At its highlight, it became 30% of our business, but could have kept going. But to do a full line hobby shop and sell everything online, that doesn't exist anywhere still. There's still an open market for a large online hobby store that's full line. I would love to see somebody do that one day. That's kind of where you have to go. In addition to having your store where you sell, but that map pricing that we were talking about makes it really hard to sell online. And I think Traxxas now, you're allowed to sell in your store, but not allowed to sell online at all. They want 100% of the online business. Brian, when he comes in, can probably confirm if that's still the case. But the RC industry, of all of the different fields of a traditional hobby store, has made it the hardest, the least profitable. And then of course products change. A plastic model, that mold lasts for 50 years, but an RC car changes, you're stuck with all the old parts. And it's a very hard industry to be in for the hobby store people.
Yeah, absolutely. George, you're muted.
You're muted, George.
Sorry about that. Trying to keep the sound all clean around here. Why don't we bring Brian in? It's a perfect time for him to comment on this part of the conversation, and then we'll get back to Alan's history and what he's currently doing. What's up, Brian?
He's muted too.
He's not on the podcast often, so take him a second.
There he is. What's up, Brian?
What's up, Brian?
How you doing?
So
a little more energy.
Come on.
You sound like Toby.
I know, right?
Sometimes.
Now I feel better.
Not my area of expertise.
You're still at the shop, huh?
Yes.
Oh man.
What gave you that idea, Vince?
That's why he's so happy.
I thought that was Vince tires that roll behind him.
You don't keep your room like that?
No, if I had a room like this, I would need a rehab.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen that Facebook reel where the guy walks into his garage and there's 3 walls lined from floor to ceiling of every crawler, A scale, 5th scale, so on and so forth. It's kind of what it looks like. But anyway, we got Brian here on the podcast. Brian is one of our panel members, one of our hosts. Doesn't come around often, but he is involved at Trains and Lanes in Eastern Pennsylvania. Brian runs, I believe, the RC car department over there at Trains and Lanes. We wanted to bring Brian in tonight and have him comment with Alan because nobody knows best of the current state of affairs at a current hobby store. So we wanted to hear Brian's comments about basically what he's heard Alan talk about so far and what it's like to run that business today. And I'm sure Alan's got some questions for him based on his experience. So take it away, Brian. Tell us what it's like to, operate in the RC environment, Trains and Lanes, and online.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what Alan said of just how things have gone, it's just kind of continued that way. Margins have gotten smaller. Sponsored drivers take away from the racing portion of the hobby. But the one thing you were just talking about was Traxxas. They actually do have that where you can't sell online, but it's only for a certain period of time. They eventually give you the right. It's just, I think their last time they did it, it was like 2 years before you could sell it online, which is pretty big. But the other positive thing they do is they actually sell some of their stuff above map on their website. So it's cheaper in store. So they did that with their latest release of the Mini Max, which was huge for RC bashers. You know, we were $20 less than they were selling it for, which was pretty cool for them. But yeah, you know, margins are always getting smaller and online's always competing. It's tough. We don't have an online store, so it's extra hard for us. But you know, the owner's old school, so we do well. But you know, there's always room for improvement, I'm sure. But,
you guys have one of the best hobby shops, though. I mean, talk about the amount of inventory. You know, like Alan was saying, there's a need for a full line online hobby shop. You guys have trains, slot car tracks. I mean, you don't see the slot car tracks like that. I mean, we got 3 or 4 huge slot car tracks there. I remember the first time I walked in, just the Lexan body wall.
And it's funny you mentioned the Lexan body wall. We have a whole nother building full of bodies for Lexan bodies. I mean, like there's the old hobby shop in the 70s. It still has a wall full of bodies from the 70s, all originals. I mean, there's cars there, there's everything, trains, slot car stuff.
Wow.
There's got to be
and I will be there tomorrow.
Pay big money for that stuff.
Yeah, we do have a lot of slot car tracks too. We have 2 tracks that are about 200 feet long and then an oval. We have like 4 in storage, but I don't think there was a hobby place about a year ago that had slot car tracks like that, but we're the only one now at this point.
Yeah, I think Zeppelin Hobbies up in North Jersey has a slot car track.
Yeah, they do. Yep.
Yeah. There was a place not far from here, but I don't know what happened. I mean, they're still open, but they don't do anything slot cars anymore. It's all RC racing, all oval. So they took a huge 360 on what they were doing.
What's the name of that place? My buddy was just there yesterday.
I think now it's called RJ Speed Room.
Okay.
They just have oval racing. A lot of guys know Ozzy. He's the one who runs it, but yeah, they were slot cars, and the guy sold it probably after a year or 2. I don't know for what reason, but you know, I know it's still open technically. It's just completely different.
So what's it like today, Brian? Meaning you got customers coming in, they can buy online. Is it do you guys do online orders as well, or do you guys sell just directly in the store?
So I'm kind of the only one who will advertise a little bit online because none of the other departments really do it. I mean, we don't have, like I said, we don't have a website, but we do phone orders. We have a company that we work with that for certain parts we ship through them. So if you buy on their website, it comes from our store. They don't actually have a stock, which is pretty cool. I wish more companies did that, but it's definitely a cool way to reach out to other people. But yeah, I mean, I would say 95% all in store. So.
Wow.
How long's that store been around?
79. 79 is when they built this building that we're in. I think they were open a few years. The owner's a farmer, so I think it was open a few years, in a barn, and then they built this. So, but this has been here since 79.
Brian, when you see your clientele come in, I mean, you were mentioning before about the racers, and a lot of them come pre-equipped with their needs. Mm-hmm. But when you guys are selling in the store, what would you, if you had to guess the ratio between, backyard bashing, whatever you want to call it, compared to the racer level? What's that ratio look like?
I mean, because we race indoor and outdoor, we do have kind of racers year round. But it's probably only 10% of it's racers. It could be more, it could be less, but I would say probably somewhere around there.
Well, I'm sure on a race day, right? It's much higher race.
Yeah.
But in general,
yes and no, because race day is usually a weekend, and the weekend's just the busiest day in general. I mean, right. It's probably closer, maybe like 20 to 30%, but like during the Christmas time, it's probably still 95% your basher rather than your racer.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's compared to in the 80s when we were racing, 90% of the cars that were at our races were bought at our store and part support through the store. So that's the shift the hobby stores have had to endure.
Yeah, well, when I was in the Fuel Nationals in Texas in 2019, I actually was talking with Gil Losi, and he was saying, in the 90s, you made a lot more. You sold, everything was really through the stores. The stores were ordering more. And that slowly shifted away, and it's a lot harder now to survive, even for those bigger companies. I mean, we were talking about AKA at the time. If you look at what AKA was then and what AKA is now, and what all those companies are, it's a lot different. That's for sure. But yeah, he said, in the 90s and even the 2000s, it was way different. I know the owner of the store said, they used to order 100 T-Maxes at a time when they were racing Monster Truck. I mean, we don't sell 100 race kits probably in a couple years. They were selling 100 Monster Trucks to go racing every month. So it's definitely completely changed. That's for sure.
Brian, how do you feel about the comments that Alan was making before in terms of like the progression of Horizon Hobby taking over a lot of the other businesses, and then obviously where they're going to be with A-Main today, and what you think that means for the local hobby shops, right? Because at least from what I've been paying attention to, please correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, basically you're looking at Horizon, like Tower, and A-Main online, right? Those are like the three juggernauts at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Horizon and Tower, it's the same thing. So, I mean, they probably take up majority of the market, and then A-Main's behind them. But, I mean, A-Main's a really great company. I mean, they're really good to deal with. Like, we distribute through them. We do, obviously, a lot of Horizon. I'm sponsored by Horizon, so I'm not going to say anything too crazy. But, I was at a hobby show with a bunch of hobby shops, and there are a lot of people upset with Horizon Hobby. They do a lot of things that I don't even see how it benefits them. They released cars that were super popular. They had the Losi NASCARs and the Losi Micro Bs. I mean, those cars came out in September, and we haven't seen a shipment, and we won't see a shipment until the end of March. I mean, it was really cool. It was supposed to be a way to get people into racing. Not the form of racing I do, it's on-road and stuff like that. And it was a really cool idea, and we were going to reopen our on-road track for the first time in a lot of years. But they kind of dropped the ball on it. I mean, it just seems to be a common thing with them. I mean, they find something, but they don't do everything it takes to really make it work. And it hurts a lot of hobby shops. It makes them look bad. And, you order somebody something and you can't get it for them for 6 months. I mean, that's probably why TLR is in the state it's in now. I remember you couldn't get parts for an entire year. We had stuff come off back order from 9 to 13 months.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, that was a great company, and not many people run it anymore.
Nope.
So.
Yeah, parts are important, right?
Yeah.
You can't move into a brand if you can't get parts. It's like the Stranglehold. For anybody watching who's not familiar, Losi had come out with, I think it was 18 scale. It was a NASCAR replica. So a lot of guys started running that indoor. I've actually run one a couple times down at our local place. A lot of fun. You can rub fenders. I was doing it on a road course, which made it even more fun. But then I had inquired because first time I went out, one of the guys there let me borrow his car. Next time I went out, I wanted to rent one from the store because they had some renter beaters out there. And then I went to buy one because I thought it would be fun. And they were like, no inventory. Don't even know when we're getting one. And I just thought that was pretty astounding because it was such a popular class. Every guy there had one, but yeah, anybody new coming to get involved, you're hitting the online market. And I'm sure if you want to buy one used, they're probably twice as much as they are regular if you want to get involved for this season. And then who knows? Next season it could not be the hype anymore, right? That's the thing with a lot of these smaller classes I've seen, is that you can get into to me a TTO1 or TTO2 and you're running it this season, and all of a sudden next year Losi comes out with a different little car that's cool, and then all of a sudden everybody drops that class they were running. So now, as the hobby store, right, you potentially could have a wall of parts, like Alan was talking about before, sitting there, but nobody's running the class anymore, and you're sitting there with all these parts, right, that you'd be happy to get rid of the cost at that point. But so where do you see, as the next couple of years, or as long as you're going to be at the store or involved on the retail end, how do you guys plan to deal with the even more consolidation of that market? Do you think maybe you guys build an online store, or maybe you spearhead something like that so that you can be more involved with the online selling?
It's gonna be tough. I mean, our inventory is so insane.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
I mean, you can't, like, there's stuff here forever. We've talked about it. It's just
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and the store still does well, and I don't really foresee him really doing an inventory system.
No, I don't.
I mean, I would like to do what I would like to do, and it's not going to be like necessarily a huge money thing, but like a lot of old stuff to get on eBay. Like there's stuff from the 80s that you'll never sell in store, but somebody's going to pay full price or more than full price somewhere. I mean, we have Tamiya parts from the 80s, Kyosho parts, like original RC10 parts. I mean, there's stuff people want. It's just your everyday clients don't see it. I mean, our train inventory, we have Christmas sets from the 80s that are like definitely worth a lot of money, but you don't necessarily get the person in the store for it.
You're talking to an expert sitting in the cube next to you.
Yeah.
That's
something else.
Job.
Alan, you have experience with that, right?
We
in a large portion.
We had huge quantity of old Tamiya parts that about 20 years ago we finally started listing on eBay, and definitely, we did it auction style, and they sold either for retail or more. And if you guys are sitting on them still 20 years later, the collectors want that stuff. They want the old trains. And when we launched our website, we didn't have online or a point of sale system either. We just picked one department, started going through the shelves, listing stuff on the website, and just picking one thing at a time. And it wasn't a live inventory website. That would have taken a whole lot more work. So it can be done, Brian, but like I said, the boss man has to want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I know he wouldn't be against it, but for me, like, I'm the only full-time guy here. Yeah. It would be so hard.
Yeah,
like,
it's a full-time
there's
job.
Days we're super busy. There's days we are slow. But it
Pitch
only
him
takes
for a
one
vig,
customer.
Brian.
It only takes one customer for one person to be busy. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
But, I love it, so I can't complain.
Yeah, you guys do great there.
Yeah, the complexity as well with running an actual brick and mortar store and trying to sell online is what Krista struggles with, but they're the only people I know who do a good job, is not overselling. So I go on LCRC Raceway, I buy a part of one left in the store, and then she's got to go grab that real quick before someone picks it up when the store's open and goes and buys it. So
yeah, they do a fantastic job at LCRC.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always clean,
It's a lot of work.
organized.
Yeah, she's putting hours and hours on that. But,
yeah, but one thing I did want to mention that George brought up about, a car coming out and you couldn't get the parts. So next thing you know, you're kind of high and dry. And then it's dead. Nobody wants it when you get it. The Traxxas just did this. They had their Mud Boss come out. They got sued. I don't know the exact outcome of the lawsuit, but they changed the name. The car wasn't available. Now we have 20 of them sitting on the shelf from back orders, and nobody wants them. They were super hot when they came out, and now nobody wants them. So it can be very unpredictable. That's for sure.
Brian, you make it so good to be out of the game.
I don't want to try not to disparage, specifically, but think about X-Ray. X-Ray comes out with a new car every year. It's their model name. It's in the nomenclature. XP24, XP25. What's hard for a hobby shop to carry all those parts? Because
I think that's part of the reason we never would carry them. It's
they make
and there could be no difference. People won't buy the old one. It doesn't they could change 2 parts. They want the new one.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if the new one could be worse. I mean, a lot of people didn't like the B7 when it came out, but they're not going to buy a B6.4. It's just how it is. People want new, no matter whether it's good, bad, the same. It's just kind of the way people are programmed to think.
Yep.
I need a new phone. So, Brian, we talked about the retail portion. You mentioned some racing. Before we get back to, Alan's story in RC, what else is going on at Trains and Lanes that you might want to tell the viewers about? Current activity, indoor race schedule, outdoor race schedule, anything new that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple more indoor races. The outdoor schedule was posted. I think it's the earliest we've ever posted it, at least while I was doing it. So we hope that goes really well. We do have sales on all racing kits for the most part, all 8-scale kits. We always do it every off season. So if you're looking to get an 8-scale kit, we have them super cheap. And there's some 10-scale kits as well. Once we get into that off season, you might see those go on sale potentially if we have them left. But yeah, I mean, that's about it.
What's the number one 8-scale off-road car you carry at the store?
Sales wise, it's the Kyosho. For us, it's the Kyosho. We sell it the most. So
Toby's happy.
We don't carry the Techno. We could get it. We special order them, but we don't really get much of a demand for them here. But we definitely sell the Kyosho the most.
Kyosho Country out in Eastern Pennsylvania.
You guys keep any AE parts in stock over there?
Well, we have this guy. His name's Vin. He makes sure we have usually everything you need for your associated car. We have associated cars in stock. That's definitely our number 2. Those are really the only cars we carry is Kyosho and associated. Maybe that'll change, but that's for the most part about all we carry.
And get a Losi in there. It'll feel like an 80s hobby shop.
Well, we have a whole wall of Losi parts. We're just not carrying the cars at the moment because it seems like new stuff's coming, so you kind of don't know what to expect. And then just all the other drama with Losi, you kind of want to keep that at a special order thing, I think, for right now. But we do have some. We have some cars on sale. If you want to get yourself a 10-scale buggy, we have it for a very great price right now. But yeah, I mean, we have Techno parts, we have Mugen parts, we have parts for most major companies, but our specialty as far as what we carry is going to be Kyosho and associated.
Sweet. You mentioned the outdoor schedule. What's the date?
Let me pull it up. I might make the schedule, but I'm not very good at remembering the dates.
It's all good.
But I think it's the first weekend of April. My Facebook won't open, but I believe
I have it right here. That's right. Look, I have it for you. It is April 5th, season opener.
I was going to say it, but man, I didn't want to get it wrong. I knew it was the first weekend of April.
I was putting my schedule together. I said, I took a screenshot of yours, so I had it. So I didn't overlap you guys. I was very trying to do my best on any of your dates.
Yeah, it's challenge. I did the barn schedule and our schedule. It's a challenge, but try to work best with each other because the more tracks you have, the better state the hobby's in. You might think you want all the entries, but if another track goes out of business, it's not good for anybody. It might help you for a year, but it's the big thing with online. If everybody goes to online or to one place, you're just going to lose your reach. So you need more tracks to get more reach, and it's good for the hobby that way. Work together.
Agreed.
That's it. Moral of the story is support your local store. Yeah, it's easy to order from Amazon, but especially if the place is nearby, stop by, make friends with the owner, meet the other guys in the store. You find yourself getting into another hobby, and that's it. Support local. That's the key thing. Do it for restaurants, right? Do it for your hobby. Brian, thanks so much for coming in. You're more than welcome to hang out. We're going to get back to asking Alan some questions. So hang in there.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome. So Alan, getting back to some brass tacks. You were racing for a long time, then obviously working, getting more mature, and then you took a little RC hiatus, right, from racing for a number of years?
Yeah, got into fire and EMS for a while. So that occupied.
What's that?
Left the store for a while doing fire and EMS work until 9/11 happened, and didn't do fire and EMS anymore after that. So came back to the store.
Okay, and then you started racing again.
Yeah, so then you actually got me back to it shortly after getting back to the store when you had your, I think, T-Max you were running, and my kid was 9 years old. It was time to, he was already wrenching, so it was time to take him out to a track, first with his Rustler and then a two-wheel drive Stadium Associated VIN. Yes, we had an Associated. He'll be proud to know. So we came out with you to Track 70 and down to Family Hobbies. I was originally the pit guy. I would pit for my kid, pit for George, help him with the batteries. We messed around coming up with your quick change battery tray so you could run with nitro cars and e-truggy. Back in that day, there was no e-truggy, so George had an e-truggy that we ran with nitro. And then as my kid got older and started getting out of it, and I'm left with his cars, I was like, well, I'm going to start running his cars. And then just kept getting more and more hooked back into it. Love running the electric and trying to get faster and experience more of what I can do with the hobby. So it's a blast.
So during that time, right, you were seeing the hobby business in our local area start to, go down seriously, take a pretty strong demise. And at that time, you started coming up with some concepts of how you could segue your experience in the industry, your experience of products, your love for RC. And why don't you tell us a little bit about ML Toys, which, by the way, is a sponsor of the No Name RC podcast recently. So congratulations to you for that. And you've been a sponsor at some of the other big races down south, I believe.
I did Fall Brawl. I did Motorama last year.
Nice.
I got to talk to Toby about this year and see what other races we're going to start hitting up for sponsoring.
That's awesome, man. Tell the people what ML Toys is about.
So ML Toys, we were talking about the early internet days and my dad learning to listen to what the customers are asking for. So our internet store had RC parts, but we also repaired Power Wheels, which is the kids ride on cars they drive around in the yard with. So Google put the two together. When people would ask for faster motors for Power Wheels, they would send them to our store and we would get phone calls. So I started a little side hustle business, this ML Toys, of faster motors for Power Wheels. I found motors that would work. George was kind of watching me from the beginning. George and I used to get together every week for a wrench night, and we'd work on cars together. And it slowly started changing. If George was working on cars, and well, Alan's going to work on cars a little, but I got to make some motors for people. And then when people started running the faster motors, and they started needing gears for the cars to help them. They were stripping the gears out of the plastic gearboxes. So I reached out to Robinson Racing Products because they made a gear for a T-Max that looked very similar to the gear that kept failing on the Power Wheels. And Rob was great. Rob's a racer from the 1980s himself, and he's laughing at me. He's like, this is the dumbest idea ever, modifying a Power Wheels. He's like, I'll do it just because it sounds like fun. And he designed the gear for us, and we started selling them. And long story short, on the gears, we're Robinson Racing's biggest customer now. They spend most of their production time building gears for the various vehicles we work with. And that side hustle just kept on growing to the point where, eventually I wound up leaving the store. The store was struggling. This business was growing. We started doing batteries and making our own gearboxes and, actually getting our own molds. We mold our own tires now. Lots of fun stuff to make the cars faster. And, just like you can't put a diff gear from an Associated into a Techno, well, we got lots of different brands of ride-on cars, and all of them are all different. So it was a lot of research and development time spent coming up with different modifications for the different cars. And it's a lot of fun. They work very similar to RC cars. They have, a battery, a speed control, which on some cars is just an on-off switch foot pedal. Some of them, we actually manufacture a speed controller now. I kind of got the idea from, hey, if Castle Creations could make a 5th scale speed controller, why can't we make a Power Wheel scale speed controller and just have the inputs be a gas pedal and a brake pedal instead of a remote? So we came up with a speed control system. And but they're RC cars, in technology wise, just a lot bigger. So we have to deal with higher wattages, just much stronger current tolerances. And then keep in mind the idea that, here we go, there's the speed control system. These are being driven by 3 to 5 year old kids. So we have to make them safe. Unfortunately, almost nobody solders anymore. So we have to make everything as plug and play friendly as possible. You'll see everything there has got connectors to it. So it's a lot of fun to mess with. It's a little frustrating sometimes being first to the game because we have to invent everything ourselves. But I've been enjoying the journey of it. And so it's allowed me to now start sponsoring races, travel to races. I kind of try to tie the two a little because one's my passion, one's my business. And we'll see where it keeps going.
Explain a little bit to people that aren't familiar about when you make the reference for racing, right? Because you mentioned these are backyard cars that, kids are putting more power in. So some people might think, they're just racing down the block, but there's a more serious side to this racing.
Yeah, for any of the Northeasters that were at Motorama last year, you saw some of our top racers there. They had their own Power Wheel drag racing. It's probably the number one form of racing that's come around. Backyard bash, we try not to make cars go over 12 miles an hour. A stock car does 5. But these kids on the drag strips now are hitting up to 40 miles an hour in 60 feet. They're running wheelie bars. They're running, traction adders. They have brake systems to help them stop at those speeds. It's gotten very competitive. And we're trying to stay at the forefront of that. The parts they use are, just like, with race cars, the parts they use are different than what backyard bashers use. We don't even have like a ROAR or an IFMAR kind of system yet. So, racers around the country are all running under different rules. We're trying to help some of the lead racers come up with a national organization for it now and really get it going. And the Lefty took interest in it because his daughter is in Power Wheels age. And so he's starting a Power Wheels group, a podcast that we're going to do together. So kind of interesting fun. I did not expect it to take that kind of a turn. The ML was the ML Toys name actually came from a guy who was running a Power Wheels junkyard online selling old Power Wheel parts. And the same time I was starting my business, he was retiring. Michael Luciano was his name. So instead of building a whole new website with zero Google presence, I bought his website from him and got it going. Yeah, there's some of our Power Wheel racers now. Just insane. Those look like more stock ones.
Can you imagine putting, your 7, 8, 9-year-old kid in this thing, right? That's kind of like the age, doing 40 miles an hour, right? Yeah, it's crazy, man. A funny story recently. I got a buddy of mine that lives local, and he's like great small engine repair guy. So this recent nice New Jersey snow event that we had to use a snowblower, and snowblower wasn't idling when I took it off throttle. So headed over to Anthony's house, bring it over there to get it worked on. As I go in his garage, he's got 3 Lightning McQueen Power Wheels sitting on the floor in there. This guy's got quads in there. He's got stretched street bikes in there. He's got high performance go-karts with like Zenoa engines and disc brakes on them. Like, this guy's like full motorhead. I'm like, Anthony, what are you doing with these cars? He's like, I'm racing with Little Man. That's his son. And greatest part of the story is, so I said to him, I go, you're racing these things? He's like, yeah. I said, you ever hear of this company online called ML Toys? And he's like, yeah, man. You know, they make some really cool high performance products. I said, my friend actually owns it. So, you know, I ended up asking Alan for a favor so I could hook up my friend Anthony, who's fixing my snowblower, and, you know, got him some parts recently. So that's going to be really cool. And the greatest part of the whole story is my friend Anthony, his son's got a disability. I think he's got one shorter leg than the other one. So he's always got like this leg brace on, but the kid's always in the best mood, right? And Anthony was telling me that when his son is at the races in the car, basically he doesn't feel like he's got a handicap. He feels like he's at equal with the other kids that are there, because he's either winning races or, you know, getting up on the podium sometimes when there's a shootout. And, you know, that was so gratifying to my friend, right, who now sees this big smile on his kid. It just made me really happy, kind of full circle. I could help him out, tell Alan a great story, and he helped us out. So just really good stuff. It's, you know, I remember when Alan told me about it back when, and, you know, I said to him, don't quit your day job, because I had no idea what was going on. And Alan's about to maybe potentially in the near future retire from his job versus quitting his old day job. So kudos to you for your idea and a lot of development. That speed control, I think, is really awesome too. Saw you develop it, and it's basically a gas pedal for the ride-on car that has variable speed, whereas before you would just step on it immediately at full throttle. So Alan's experience running speed controls with cars, you know, gave him that experience. The connection here for everybody listening is that, you know, they always say if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, right? So many of us don't do the things that we love for work, and a lot of times, and in some cases, you could do what you love and you lose the love for it because it becomes work or a pain in the ass. Alan was very lucky to take things that he grew up with, really enjoyed. It's something that he's involved with now. He loves racing, and as a result of his luck and ingenuity, he's been able to turn that into what I call luxury RC car racing, because, you know, Alan was basically now can spend the time going to LCRC racing for 5 days or other similar events like that, where he's promoting not only his products, but he's doing his second love too, which is racing RC cars. So I think that's, you know, that's really awesome. Not many people get to live that double life. So kudos to you, Alan.
Thank you. American dream. Everybody should pursue it. Give it a shot. Work hard at it. It was hard. Don't make it. Maybe I made it sound easy, but there was a lot of 70-hour weeks for years put in to get it rolling.
No doubt.
George. Yeah.
I remember the time, you know, Alan lived in a very small, modest place with him and his kid. And, you know, Alan now has a nice home and some other great things that come through the hard work and business. So key thing is, you know, keeping your head down, really doing what you love.
Thank you, George.
Not a problem, Alan. My pleasure. Without you and your family, I wouldn't be in this great hobby that I love, or this podcast even exist, if you want to take it back that far. So without my affiliation with you and getting in the hobby, none of this really would happen. I wouldn't be friends with these guys. We wouldn't be on episode 26. So it's really about paying it forward. You and your family turned me on to something which has been a huge portion of my life. And I wouldn't want to live without it, because it's really something that keeps me busy in the off time. I'm a tinker. So if I'm not racing, I'm tinkering on things. If it's not cars, it's RC boats. But if it's got a receiver and a transmitter, I'm hooked. So that's the greatest part about that.
You know, I think that's one of the things that keeps like Brian going and me going in the hobby store, is to see where kids go that got those hands-on skills. And, you know, George, we have a friend that became an agricultural engineer, Corbin, and like just to see where these kids grow up with, because of the hands-on experience that a hobby store can give them that they're not getting in schools anymore, you know. And same thing with the Power Wheels. I'm seeing these kids progress into junior dragsters, quarter midget racing, other things. It's so rewarding. It makes the lesser pay of a hobby store, and I hate to keep knocking on hobby stores. I always say I wish my dad had opened a jewelry store instead. But that's where the reward is to see how it benefits people. So, and I appreciate the friendship we've had over the years from it, of course.
Most definitely. Well, it was awesome to have you on and to hear your story. Like I said to Brian before, we definitely want you to hang out. We have some other portions of the podcast that we're going to move on to. But it was a great experience. Toby, do you have, before we switch gears and go into our sponsor mention and then up to Tom for some new products, can you show a shot of the front of the store that Alan and his family had? I think that was the only picture we didn't show. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I had to. I had some invitations. There you go.
There you go.
That's awesome.
That was, yeah, it was so cool, man. The train headlights, and one of the other things I think on the Wizard staff, they had lights on the outside of the building, and when they painted this concept, they kind of painted the lights into the concept. So when you drove by at night, the Wizard was there with his globe shiner. The train looked like it was coming at you. It was pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Good times.
Good times. All right. As Toby goes to queue up our second mention of EB Mods.
Do I?
Yeah, I remember Hobby Masters. I used to travel so much for work. I was on the road.
You want me to hit it up, Toby?
Yeah, sure.
I remember finding that place. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, so just speak a few more words about Ed over at EB Mods. Ed's out there for your engine needs in Northeast. You need your engine reconditioned, or actually Ed's often at a lot of the local races. LCRC, I think he attended quite a few of them. Go over to see Ed if you're having problems tuning your car. He'll even pinch a cylinder trackside for you. So he's your man for all engine services. He has a website, ebmods.com. He has a full service dyno tuning. He'll actually started selling his own line of engines. Check him out. He's kind of like the Adam Drake of the East Coast, I guess, in terms of like the engine services he does. He brings years of experience.
And the fastest motors in the Northeast.
April 5th is going to be here before you know it, right, Brian?
Oh, yeah. It's coming fast.
Better get those engines tuned.
All right. So at this point in the podcast, we're going to shift over to our bottom cube, bottom right or left, Tom Petrella. He's got a awesome looking hat on. But Tommy's going to take over some new products, and he's going to handle that segment from now on. We're trying to bring you another new piece for this new year. So take it away, Tom.
Cool. Well, this might be a little off kilter as I'm trying to get ready to do this for the first time, but definitely some new cool products out there. We appreciate you guys sending some of the stuff you see out there for some of the different cars, but a few different things I wanted to highlight for today. And I'm going to, hopefully Toby won't kick me off for presenting here, but I wanted to show you guys a few different things that are out there. Let's see, show screen. So first one I wanted to show, I'll get this right sooner or later. Here we go.
Tom's
so first one you put up here, you guys see this now?
Nope.
Oh, here we go. There it is. Anyway, J Concepts came out with, I think, a really cool idea, something like I was using back in the HB days. But they have their own droop blocks and ride height gauge to calculate droop. So I think Vince covered this in the past. I'm sure we'll be talking more about it. But the advantage to using droop, a lot of people will measure their shocks by shock length. But if you start moving shock positions around, you are impacting your droop more often than not. So they came out with a new system with 30 and 36 millimeter droop blocks. You turn them one way, they're 30 millimeters tall for 10 scale cars. The other way, they're 36 millimeters high for 8 scale cars. And then there's a corresponding droop gauge that comes with it. And I'll just click on it real quick. I don't know if I can zoom in on enough here. But it actually has indications here on the side that'll show you whether you're even with the chassis, above the chassis, or below the chassis. Droop's really important for setting your car up. It really impacts how your car handles on power and off power. So really cool thing that's out there. I don't think anybody from the major manufacturers has come out with something like this. So pretty impressive they have that. Vin, you want to build anything on that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I have them right here.
Got them already.
I was actually waiting to open these on the show and actually show it to you guys. Nice. Comes in a little plastic here. Let's open this bad boy up and get it right in the camera. Oh, this thing is really nice. Look, it even says J Concept right there on it. And there we go. If you guys can see that, the thing at the top.
That's RC porn right there, man.
Droop gauge. And then these blocks are really nice too. So I was actually looking at the colors. I really like how they designed them. And yeah, you can use them for 10 scale, for 8 scale, just depending on which way you put them. And I think what we'll do is we'll show how to use them next month on the next episode. And go.
Didn't a 36 millimeter do a truggy also? I think a 30 won't.
I don't know. We're gonna find out. But
nobody checks the troop on their truggy. They just go out and run them.
Just send it.
36 millimeter is the average.
Just send it.
Block for truggy.
Thank you, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
These are so cool. Anyway, I can't wait to use them. So you get a pair of these, and then this.
Which is also a ride height gauge, so it does both.
Yeah. So you get to measure right under your wheel hexes with this little end right here. While your car is up on these blocks, whichever scale you're doing, 10 scale, 8 scale, and then you measure under the hexes. And that is the correct way to measure droop, and we will talk about that soon.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So another thing, now that since we have Alan here, we may as well take advantage of leveraging Alan with Techno's got a new buggy that just came, new truggy that just came out.
Yeah, they just
2.2 truggy. So I mean, look, Techno's always had a very solid truggy platform. But I know they made some improvements to it. I mean, Alan, do you have anything you are familiar with specifically what they've changed on them compared to the old model?
Well, we had the 2.0 truggy forever, and then the 2.1 buggy came out. We all started putting the 2.1 buggy front end onto the truggy. And it definitely was an improvement over the 2.0, but it was a bit of a kit bash to do and made it pricey. So they came out with, they skipped the 2.1 truggy altogether and went right to the 2.2. And they did some other subtle improvements to it when they did that. A lot of Wiggins has been doing a lot of R&D work. And it really just settled the truck down and made it so much nicer to drive. I took mine. I had it at the electric version at Fall Brawl. I was just going to break it in and then run the old 2.1 that I had. And it ran so good out of the box over my tuned-in, broken-in one that out of the box stock, I ran it and did fabulous. I qualified in the A sort right out of the gate in qualifier 1. So it's a really well-settled truck over the previous versions.
Cool.
Yeah, it was always a good truck anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah,
well, it's nice to see they updated because I know usually the nitro buggy gets the most love, and they filter some of the stuff down to an e-buggy, and the truck is usually the last one to get some love. But it's good to see they sent it over there. And you guys were talking before, right? Truggy class continues to grow. E-Truggy's been real popular out there, so it's good to see. And Vin and I were having a debate the other day. He stopped down at Rhythm. We were talking. We had a new guy come in, decide what kind of car to get, and I'm trying to talk about buggies. And Vin, it really sat with me after we got done talking. Makes a lot of sense. Look, for new people, Truggy's not a bad way to go. It's less setup requirement. It's got more bite. It's a little floatier. Not a bad way for new people to go.
It's not as pipe specific either. So for a new driver, it's nice not to be getting marshaled all the time when you can just go over them.
Good point.
Cool. One other product I wanted to spotlight with you guys as I try to talk and do this at the same time. George sent me this one for some Kyosho parts that are out there now. Kyosho, which is coming out with some essentially adding kingpin inclination as an option to their cars. they used to have it, I guess, back on the MP5 days, and they kind of got away from it. And now they're going to start putting it back on there. So King Panicka Nation, Vin will probably do a better job explaining it than I can. But essentially, you're going to, the hinge point for the steering on the top compared to the bottom is different. So what ends up happening, it makes the car will actually turn differently in the beginning of the steering compared to the end of the steering. It actually increases camber, if I'm right, Vin. You want to correct me if I'm wrong there. So it just changes the overall characteristics of the handling. And a lot of guys like to have that as an optional tuning option.
Yeah, it's going to change camber and caster as we go through the stroke and as it turns. And just leading right off of that, Tom, if you don't mind, this is the AE kit that just came out. That's very similar to what we're talking about. But what this is part number 81675. It's basically the B4.1 to B3 16 degree KPI conversion kit. So this has the shock tower that you need in there, the knuckles, and then even, I'll get it out so you can kind of see it, the upper arm plate, to adjust the upper arm width. And obviously the shock tower goes along with that. And there's even a little instructions in here on how to do it. There's even a video. I believe Richard Saxton made the video on how exactly to convert this and what it does. But going from 8 KPI, which is the B4.1, to the 16 KPI, this is going to have better bump absorption. It's going to be better on certain tracks. You might even enjoy it on whether it's high grip, low grip. Obviously you have to set the car up for the way you like it. But on a bumpier track, I would definitely suggest trying this out, see how it goes. A couple of our guys have already tried it. I believe Lee Setzer has been trying it at a couple different tracks. I know he ran it. What track was that? Anyway, he ran it in our region at a couple places, and it worked out well for us. So you can also mate that with the longer chassis, the forward weight bias chassis, and you'll basically have like the older buggy.
Only. Yeah, it's just, I think this is going back to one of those things that Brian was saying, where they're going back to old parts because the newer car isn't as good as the old car, right? So they've packaged up some of the older parts.
Well, I think they also make revisions, like we talked earlier. There's a short out there that Lefty has with Ryan Mayfield talking about how today's tracks have evolved a whole lot too. Like the tracks continue to get higher grip, they continue to get smoother. So as the tracks evolve, sometimes the old design actually worked better than the new design. The new design was based on a certain expectation. Things continue to change.
Yeah, that happened with the MP9 TKI 4, right, Brian? Everyone started putting the TKI 3 front ends back on the car again, because it was not so good.
So, Brian, you're sitting in a gold mine of old parts there that people might want to eventually put back on their cars, right? You're ready for them.
That's right.
And then the last thing I wanted to share, which I thought was interesting, Hot Race is coming out with some a new tire compound, which is kind of cool. It's mainly for wet tracks. Let me share my screen again. Bear with me.
The white
Hot Race is coming out with an orange dot compound. They're calling it a rain compound, but it's basically an extreme soft tire. I wouldn't be surprised to see some people try it on a wetter track. When it's cold out, or even a drier track when it's cold, it might help you. But they're calling it an extreme soft compound. So, another option for people to have. There are those times, you get the tracks sometimes in the wintertime, you get to those races, whether fall brawl this year, I'm sure Alan's probably just getting back up to temperature, and Toby as well. It was pretty dang cold down there this year. Motorama can be pretty cold. It might be an option for some people to try.
Yeah, I will say I ran the one time I TQ'd at LCRC was a qualifier that was right after the rain, and the tire company I ran for then had a rain-specific tire that I just drove out beyond everybody and TQ'd because of it. So there is a place for a wet weather tire in our industry. If you're first out after they water the track or after a rain, it's something to have in your ammunition.
Totally agree. And that's all I have for new stuff, George. I mean, there's a few other things that are out there, but we'll save it for next time. I know we're an hour 40 in, so.
I mean, I have one or two things, if you guys don't mind, just real quick. I actually, just from Shell Racing, Kurt Wenger, I just got this titanium screw kit he put out for the 4.1. And so not only do you get this all like separately bagged screws, but he also gives you a breakdown of exactly what screw goes where, which I thought was really cool. So I'm looking forward to building a new B4.1 for this season with the tie kit. And then he's also got these Shell Racing C blocks back in, which allows you to adjust the rear toe in half increments. So if you're looking for like in between on your toe, you want to loosen up the rear end a little bit and get more a little bit more forward bite and loosen up the rear so it rotates a little bit better. And then also exiting jumps, it's going to feel a little bit better with less toe, on a really bumpy section or in a rhythm section of jumps, if you will.
I see what you did there, Vin. I appreciate it.
Rhythm it is.
All right, rhythm it is.
Hey, just since the name came up real quick, I before I had to come back on earlier, I wanted to mention we've got our opener for Rhythm Outdoor coming up on April 12th. So if you guys want to start marking your calendars for that one, working around everybody else that's got stuff going down. And then indoor, we got a race coming up on March 1st. That's our racer appreciation race. Always a good time, laid back day. I bring in lunch for everybody. So hope to see you guys out there for that.
Cool. I'm so excited. I'm beyond excited.
I want to start working on the track today. It was so nice out there. I was ready to go over there and start tearing it down, building new jumps and being ready. But soon enough.
I'm fucking pumped. Sorry, Vinny. But
you got to say that word with a British accent. It sounds better.
New rule.
I am. I'm so pumped for A Scale Racing. So all I just heard is 5th and 12th, 2 weekends back to back, and then where's the barn? The week after that?
Yep, 13th.
Oh, and then I guess LCRC is the week after that.
Yep.
No, it's Easter, then LCRC.
Oh, okay. That's a busy month, man. Getting right to it. Hope it doesn't rain.
Now it's on you, Vin. It's recorded. 1:43. It's on you. We're all coming to New Camper with muddy feet. Good job.
All right. With that being said, we covered some new products for Tom. He's going to be handling that section from now on, and we're going to roll everything over to Vin's setup segment. So take it away, Vin, and
all right,
take center stage.
Tonight we're going to talk about camber, and I know I've gone over it before, but it's a really, really important thing to know, and it goes with ride height, which I went over last episode. So the tool you want to use is, this is my J Concept ride camber gauge, and you just want to loosen this up and just put this up against your rear tire on your pit board, okay, like so, and just adjust it and get the value right here. So basically, it's the angle of the tire in relation to the track. Okay, so how is it in relation to the track on the track surface? So you're going to measure it, like I said, with your camber gauge after you set your ride height. So you have your ride height set at the right spot, and then you go ahead and put this up against it. Read it, like I said. You usually want to set front the same, the rear the same. So, for example, on the front, usually I'm between 0 and 2 degrees of camber. And when set correctly, you're going to have the most amount of steering. And so that's why you really need to just go out there and test different camber settings. I usually adjust in half-degree increments to make sure I get it just right when I have it zoned in. Then I'll really zone it in half increments. So on the front, less camber is going to give you a little less steering. It's going to be a little bit smoother, a little bit more linear, easier to drive. But then when you want to make the car a little more aggressive, you usually want to add more camber, and that's going to give you more steering, and it's going to be less linear, like I said, more aggressive. So on the rear, usually you want to be between 1 and 3 degrees of camber. And less camber is going to give you more forward drive. So when tires are more straight up, it's just going to lock in and it's going to go forward. And then less camber is going to make it so that it actually, as the suspension compresses through the corner, okay, you're going to add camber, and through the camber gain, it's actually going to be better mid-corner. So you want to optimize it so that you get the most amount of corner speed. You don't want the rear end doing funny things. If it's the rear end stepping out, it's usually the camber isn't set right, or there's a major setup issue. A lot of times it's just honing in the camber and getting that right, and often overlooked and always should be played with. You have different aspects, like even your camber gain. So, when you go down on the tower here and you're moving it down, you're raising the roll center, a higher roll center. And then inversely, when you go up on the tower, you're lowering the roll center. And that's a lesson for another day. But basically, a low roll center is less prone to flipping. It's going to make the car feel a little bit more in the track, but it might not necessarily be the fastest way to go. So definitely things that you have to play with if you want to get it right. One other thing, we were talking about KPI before, and with that is also your caster. So when you have less caster, low caster, and it's more upright, you want to use a little bit more camber because there's a little bit less camber going into it. So when you have a higher caster angle, then and the front end is more inclined, okay, you want to use less camber. So you want to have your camber a little bit more perpendicular to the track. So more camber in general, to conclude, more camber in general is going to be better on a bumpy track or a high grip track where you're trying to tone it down and make the car easy to drive. And then, a little bit less camber for tracks with less grip, where you want to get maximum forward bite, or maybe the grip is inconsistent. So you need as much contact patch on the track as possible. That's when you want to run less camber, generally speaking. And, there's a couple different ways to set your camber. What I usually do is just trial by error, and just go out there and see what works the best. Another thing you can do is actually, and JQ talks about this, setting it by temperature. So you take a temp gun when it comes off the track, you can temp the inside of the tire, the outside of the tire. And if one side is wearing more or it's hotter than the other, you can adjust your camber accordingly to get it as even as possible. And that actually really does work. I have done it that way. And it's very similar to doing with tire wear, which is self-explanatory. So if you guys don't have any questions, please, like, subscribe, share, leave in the comments what you'd like to hear about next. I probably am going to go over droop next time, and I'm going to use these droop blocks and this new gauge that I'm so stoked to use. I can't wait. And I'm going to go over all that next time, unless somebody has some questions. This camber episode goes out to Mike Malone once again, who asked for this, as well as ride height. So I decided to give him these two important things back to back.
Hey, Ben, I do have a question for you, just on setting the camber. I believe I remember in the last one we were talking about ride height, right? You're kind of dropping the car, letting it roll a little bit forward. I think it's really important with camber too to make sure when you put the car down, very carefully push on a D block, just roll the car forward so the car kind of settles, because your camber can bounce around a little bit. So it's kind of good to move it forward. Is that, at least that's how I've always done it. I assume that's what you're going to say, but.
So with the ride height, you really want it to be at the ride height the car is going to settle at when it's on the track. With the camber, it's one of those things that as we go through the stroke, the camber does change. There's camber gain. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You want it to be at that correct ride height. But you also have to remember these plastic wheels are sometimes molded imperfectly, and sometimes they'll sit a little funny on the hex, and they'll actually move. So what I do is, like, I'll check it, and if I'm not sure, I'll roll the tire and I'll check it again, and I'll see if I have a bad wheel, or is that really the camber or the way it's supposed to be. Now, some people even go to the extremes and they use like an entire setup system, and there's a couple companies out there. There's more than one company now that makes them. I believe JQ's got a setup system. Hoodie's always had it. It's like a big kit. It's not cheap. and I believe there's some other companies now that have it as well. And it's a whole system. You take off your tires and you hook it up to the system, and you can measure your toe. You can measure everything basically. And for on road, that's really a great thing to have. It's really critical that you get that set up just perfect.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. I don't know if Toby saw my private message or not. Did you, Toby?
I did not, but I will look now.
So while Toby's previewing, how awesome was it? The last 2 episodes we had two guys that are into RC, really enjoying their hobby, that had the ability to take their knowledge in RC and start some businesses. One getting off the ground, the other one pretty well planted, but just really good stuff. Nitro Caddy and ML Toys. And with that, Toby, are you ready to do a little recap on Motorama?
Yep.
Or forecast, excuse me, not a recap.
Yeah. So getting prepped over here for the live stream coming up. So working through sponsorship for that event. I've been lucky enough so far to have Team Associated, Techno, and ProTech A-Main on board. So have some cool products going to be waffling off. Just been working on the setup for that today. Working with J Concepts, Allison over there. So I'm hoping to get them on board and see if I can rope in Alan as well. Alan sponsored us last year. So see if I can get him on board. So that's going really well. And LCRC, she's Chris and Kevin also jumping in. So doing really well with that. Certainly helps out. My son Lucas will be again with me doing the broadcast, so that will help us run the cameras and spend more time on the production. So pretty excited about that. Driver wise, I know for certain that all of the pros that came last year are going to be attending, in addition to one other techno driver. So there's going to be 4 pro level techno drivers there, which is cool. Obviously we've got these sets from Associated, Ryan Lutz from Kyosho. Who else? Can't remember from last year. So those are the ones I know about. So that's going to keep it exciting and interesting. Bring some more competition. Mayfield will be there. So a lot of battles there between Mayfield and Spencer Heckert, who will also be in attendance. So excited for that. Yeah, that's we're all getting ready over here. Facebook page is live and kicking with lots of idiots asking me, can I get a refund? It's not fair, every year. But they're drawing a pretty hard line this year about tickets. So there's no transferring, there's no selling, there's no nothing. And people, say it's not fair, but, Motorama's there to make money. And, I don't think if you sign up for TNC that you're going to get a refund if you can't make it, or other big races. I don't think that's a reality we live in.
Well, people are trying to make a second marketplace for it, right? They were buying tickets with the intention of never showing up.
Well, yeah, last year it got out.
That's not the intent of what you guys are trying to do. So you got to draw the line in the sand. Unfortunately, how do you delineate who you're going to do it for and who you're not? So I'm supportive of it. Look, it's a risk we have to take, and
yeah, I mean, it
worst
sells
case
out.
scenario, you're supporting a hobby that we all love. I mean,
it will be sold out. There is a wait list for people. Yeah, there are people who tell Scotty, look, I can't make it, so give my spot to somebody else. But they don't expect a refund because they were told from the beginning. One thing Motorama did do this year was the insurance. The insurance policy you could sign up for when you registered. So under certain circumstances, you can. It's your third-party insurance company, so you can get a refund. But that's you got to be like one of the exceptions, which are similar to like buying an airline ticket. So yeah, should be good. pretty jazzed for that. So yeah, I think that's all I got.
I'm excited to hear Scotty, as always.
Yep,
Man,
yep.
make a D main sound like an A main.
Yeah, I'll be running some short course, so that should be a good time.
Nice. Pro 4 motors.
You betcha.
Get Taylor. Don't let him beat you again.
Yeah, I think it's me, Taylor, and Taylor and Alex. I'm gonna run Pro 4 this year at LCRC. I just had a blast. It's just a lot of fun.
I never saw you smile so much. It's good to see.
It was fun. It was fun.
Back to the grassroots of why we do all this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the truck's freaking rolling and nosediving everywhere and landing back on its feet. It was like we were just cracking up. But
I'll be happy to watch. If it's windy, I'll definitely be there watching the whole thing.
Yeah, that's
Techno chassis.
Yeah. It's a fucking dump truck, but it's a lot of fun. I got to work on the nose diving stuff, but I had Henry look at it for me for a bit. But I made a bunch of setup changes, replaced the ABCD box, so fiddle with some of the kick up and stuff. So we'll see what happens.
It's almost that time.
Yep.
Not time to end the podcast. Well, that too. But Motorama's a couple of weeks away. We actually recorded 2 episodes this month. This is still January. This episode is going to come out hopefully like 5 days before everybody starts packing for Motorama. And we're super excited to see you guys there. I'm going to do some in the pit recording, driver interviews. Maybe Tom and Vin, I can pass the mic to them and they can do some recording on their phones too. That would be pretty cool. Got 2 mics, one that clips on the person you're interviewing and one for you guys. No, Tom?
I'm not going to Motorama this year.
That's right. We can do a live feed with you, Tom. I'll do a live feed.
I may still try to get out there and hell, Toby, we find someone that's not going to Motorama that wants to just get rid of their day pass.
Who the hell posted the other day that they had a set of tickets? I forget. Oh, Jack Bonhomme. You know, Jack.
I might just come out.
Really?
Watch the weather, but if the weather's decent, I mean, Jim and Lily, when I were with about taking a ride out and seeing everybody.
I was thinking about doing the same thing, coming out there. So, George, if you want my help, I'll help out.
Sweet, man. Yeah, that'd be fun.
There's so much to see there.
I think we got room on the couch again, Vin.
Nice.
Possibly. Yeah, man. Really cool stuff. As usual, trying to bring some good new content. Next month, I believe we have a young superstar coming out. Still trying to wait for confirm for Vin, I believe. Not putting you on the spot, but we're going to touch base about that. Then we're going to pick the next group of interviews that's going to take place, and we're going to start to rotate as the racing season comes in. We'll do a follow-up episode, I guess, on Motorama, put in some of the content that we aggregate there. And everybody's just getting super stoked for the race season that's going to start. April already sounds like it's going to be, fantastic. A race almost every weekend, then a little praising to God in between, and then some more racing again. So it's going to be a good time, good summer, good 2025.
Roll the dice on the weather.
Well,
it's already screwed. Thanks, Vin.
Yeah, it's my fault. Yeah. I mean, listen, April, showers bring May flowers. What can I say?
That's it.
It's gonna.
You know what? If we're all there together hanging out, it's going to be a good time regardless. It always works out good. Just no snow. I've been at LCRC in the snow. That's
yeah. Savage.
You never know.
Bring boots.
Boots, gloves, hats.
That's it.
Heated jackets.
Super soft compound tires.
So one last thing. Toby, did you see the link I sent you? Can you bring up that YouTube video? Is that possible? I have it. I'm just not sure. If I do share screen.
Hit present.
Yeah.
And share that screen.
Let me see.
Sorry, George. We're only 26 episodes in.
Yeah, well, I never share. Okay, here we go. I got it. All right. So I'm going to share a video from Motorama really quickly. So a buddy of mine, reason I'm showing this video, number one, is that my buddy Scott had this channel, and we used to hang out with Alan and a couple other guys, and we used to go racing all the time. So my buddy was into making content on YouTube for his own channel, which was crawling and A-scale. So he had never been in Motorama before. So we took him along the first year, and he decided to document it. This video right here has 947,000 views, right? So pretty popular. Video's been out there a long time. I'm not going to play the whole video. I'm only going to play the first 5 seconds of it. But if you guys get a chance, take a note of the channel, RC Space Must See. It's a cool video. It's a good intro. Not for guys who have been to Motorama all the time or make it a yearly mecca. It's really for people that are just hooking up with our channel and not sure about what Motorama is. Toby talked about his production, but it's the biggest indoor RC and motorhead event, I think, that takes place every year in the Northeast, maybe in the country. But this video will get you pumped about RC racing, and this is kind of my little intro in the beginning. That's it, man. Getting pumped for Motorama.
If only there was nitro.
Yeah, if only there was nitro.
Although it was horrible last time.
Yeah. Let me back out of this thing. Motorama.
Stop sharing.
Stop screen. There we go. All right. Anyway, awesome podcast. Thanks so much again for everybody participating. Thanks for Alan and Brian from Trains and Lanes coming out and giving us some background and history of RC stores. Bottom line is, right, support your local store, LCRC, Pennsylvania, Trains and Lanes, Pennsylvania. LCRC does online as well, something that Trains doesn't. So you can always order from them. And there's a few other shops, of course, that like Cruisin', right? Do they have a store? And Critters, right? They probably do some online stuff. So it's important to support the local guys. Otherwise, they won't be there. And when the stores aren't there, the people in the hobby start to die. So get somebody involved in the hobby. Brian's not here, but my buddy I talked about before, he's going to go to Trains and Lanes this week. I told him about the indoor track and everything they have there. So hopefully I just turn somebody onto it. And that's all I got. Anything else? Anybody?
As far as Trains and Lanes, if you're looking to order a kit, he's got a sale going right now on kits and all that. And then if you're looking to get some practice in for, let's say, Motorama, I know a lot of guys I've been helping out lately have been going down to Adrenaline RC. And they've been hitting up guys like Jacob Hardison and Lee Setzer that are down there helping people out and getting them prepped and ready for Motorama.
What's Hardison driving right now?
I don't know.
HP still? It was HP for doing.
He was low C, I think. So I'm not sure what he's going to do. He used to be AE before that, so maybe we can twist his arm and get him back on the.
Put him back in.
Yeah. He's been putting out some really good videos lately. Setzer's been putting out videos. He's been putting out videos on setup stuff and all that. So if you guys want to check it out, it's a good thing to check out. Hall Brothers has a lot of good videos out there. Obviously, JQ, there's a lot of good setup videos. So if you guys are looking for some setup knowledge, those are a couple of good options lately. You know.
Awesome stuff. Tommy, you got anything else?
No, I threw those dates out there for we're going to be rocking and rolling again at outdoor. And we were club racing every weekend for indoor. I hope you guys get a chance. You're running carpet, come on out and try it out. It's an awesome group of guys. Welcome anybody new. And everybody kind of helps everybody out. And very fortunate with a good vibe.
Is that Paul Dalton guy there?
Who's that?
Is that Paul Dalton guy there?
Yeah, we don't usually let him in. We try to leave him outside. He seems to sneak in every once in a while, though.
Bloody hell.
But again, it's a good group. We have there's a lot of laughs.
A lot of fun.
I guarantee you're not going to find a whole lot of places that was much fun for that long for $25.
Boom.
Yep.
True that. All right, boys. Episode 26 in the books, 27 coming up. We appreciate everybody for watching. Please, if you get a chance, share this podcast with somebody. Try to like it for us. We appreciate that. It improves the algorithm. Share it, all that good stuff. It's here on Facebook. Toby's got it on YouTube as well. I think maybe this year we'll be on another platform. But we're super stoked to bring you guys some awesome content, some pros and some regular Joes again for this upcoming season. And we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks at Motorama.